Hamster on a hamster wheel, not getting anywhere new? Perhaps you've hit a plateau that has you asking, is this it? Have you accomplished all you've set out to do in life and are not feeling as fulfilled as you thought you would? It is normal at midlife to reassess what's working for you and what's not. It's also normal to want to reclaim your time, your energy, and your joy. Let's make the best out of the second half of our lives by having more fun, experiencing more peace, and feeling more joy. If any of this resonates with you, then this podcast is for you. I'm Megan Bayless-Bartley. Now let's get ready to shift our shit. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Shifting Our Shit. We are here with Rob Giltner, who was our co-host for the first season, and so it's wonderful to have him back. We're interestingly experiencing some technical difficulties, so we're meeting more in person,
right?
Which is fun too. Full disclosure, also, Lemon Drop, the therapy dog, is in the office with us, and so we're not sure how she's going to handle this. So if you hear some barking or some weird noises, that's probably Lemon Drop. So Rob, welcome back.
Yeah, it's excited to be back.
Yeah.
Spoke over the phone this week. I missed you and missed the podcast.
I missed you too.
I know, that was fun.
It was fun.
I think it was a good thing you did this. You took it over. You've gone in a better direction, and
yes.
But it was fun. We had to start somewhere.
We had to start somewhere, and I'm forever grateful to you for getting it up and going.
Sure, right.
Kind of coaching me through it, and being confident that I could do it, because I was not super confident myself. And so thank you.
You're welcome. I'm so glad to be back here.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you, Rob.
I know it's a change now. That usually, I'm asking you questions.
Well, first, if today was an animal.
Oh, I love these.
What we've been doing these.
We have.
I've been doing them with our therapist too. If today was an animal, what animal would today be?
That's a great question. And I love questions like that. Part because it makes you think, and I love the insight. So let's see. Something maybe kind of energetic.
Yes.
But exciting. It's Friday. We're doing this the Friday before Labor Day.
Yeah.
It's something playful. I might say a rabbit.
Ooh.
Yeah. Okay. So associating, the hopping. There's excitement. There's buzz. It's spring and summertime. So I picture them outside, but also maybe non-threatening and kind of.
Yes. Warm and cuddly.
Yeah. So that's my animal. What about for you?
I was thinking about a dog, a lab,
right.
But I'll say our pug, the pug. She was funny today because I was taking one dog. Well, yesterday, Lemon went to the spa to get groomed, which is why she's here today, because she was definitely dirty. But so she had to leave the pug for a little while. But I felt a little bad for the pug, leaving her by herself. But she has so much energy, and she's always happy, and she also sometimes is a little bit she's not really thinking about anything. She's just rolling with the
operating
day.
In the present.
Yes, which I kind of feel that's where I'm at today.
Good.
I'm not overthinking anything or whatever. I've got fun things that this hour, meeting with Bridget next hour, just fun. So
a lot of fun.
Anyway, and I'm also joining a ESPN football draft.
Oh yeah. So when's the draft?
All ladies.
Oh, that's my wife is. Yeah. Wish she would have got with you, because she's been trying to get her friends to do that, and not having much success. But she's trying to do it last couple of years. But that's exciting. Have you done one before?
I have. Well, no. I've done the March Madness one.
Sure, right.
Just kind of pick random things. But yeah, so the women in our neighborhood were doing one because all the men in our neighborhood were doing. So we figured we're watching these games maybe anyway. We might as well have some.
Of course.
Skin in the
game.
And
the social aspect of it, it's I think once you get in certain stages of life, I think one big stage is when you kind of leave the nest, maybe leave college. It's so important to prioritize social help, but getting people together, because it's challenging. Maybe it doesn't happen as easy or as organic as maybe it does when we're younger.
Yes.
Yeah. So good for you.
Thanks. Yeah. Well, okay. Enough about me. We're talking about Rob today. Rob is, you really have a passion for couples.
I do.
Working with couples. And so we want to know, well, first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself and little background, where you grew up, how did you become a therapist? How did you get to the point where you're
I think I'd make a good therapist.
Mhm.
Like it's a unique field, you
Right.
know. So
Mhm.
especially for men, which
Mhm.
is, you know, I think sometimes people think that. I personally think it's wonderful, especially like
Mhm.
certain male personalities do really well at it. So
Yeah, well, thank you for
yeah.
asking that. I guess I'll start. My mom always described me as like a feeler, and I didn't really know what that meant when I was really young. And then, but as I kind of got a little bit older, sort of like closer to a teenager, I kind of understood it as you have powerful emotions, and used to um, not like it because
Yeah.
sometimes feelings can be, I like to say, emotionally charged, and so
Yeah.
there was a lot of charge.
Yeah.
But then as I got a little bit older, so maybe late teenagers in the early 20s, I recognized the, kind of a mindful perspective, the relationship that I was still able to have with those emotions because maybe they were charged, or as my mom said, I kind of a feeler.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of starting to already see that maybe with my son. And so I kind of really see, okay, I get maybe what my mom was saying. So that's one, but also growing up, also really recognize the importance of relationships, all relationships. So family, of course, friends, really putting an influence on like recognizing or being grateful for friendships at an early age. But then other things like nature outside, places, experiences, and then as it tends to do, like then romantic relationships, that saw that maybe important to that, learned a lot, maybe some good and not so good things.
Sure.
But it wasn't until college I took a class where they talked about um, relationships, the individual, what works, what doesn't. And that was the first class where I did reading outside of the required reading and started watching videos. And it's just like a switch hit. And I said, this is something I want to do. And parents are very supportive, set me up with maybe a couples therapist that they saw. And then a few others that they know, and the kind of rest went to the seminary. That was just like a springboard for a lot of crazy stuff, good stuff, obviously. But and then we're here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did you go straight from undergrad to grad school?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, no, not even any time off. I just graduated with the undergrad in May, and then August started at the.
So you knew.
Oh, I did. Yeah.
Okay.
A junior. A junior in college. Now I, wanted to be, I thought about maybe being a journalist, like sports journalist. I thought about working in the horse industry, thoroughbreds, so that all over the place. And I tell young people that I see, there's so much pressure to like assign, what do you want to do when you grow up? Everybody asks that. Gosh, since you're a kid, really. And then deciding a major, it's so much pressure, but take the pressure off because it takes trial and error. And that's what and it just takes time to define or see your path. It's a searching process. So I know I got us off subject, but yeah, by a junior in college, that's when I knew.
Yeah. Very cool. And so how did you know you want to work with couples? Did you know that from the beginning? Because I know I was like, I definitely don't want to work with couples, but I ended up like being really good at it. So then I was like, well, crap. Okay, I'll work with couples. You know. So how did you?
So that was like the day when I wanted to work with couples. Like individuals, it's funny because now there's new passions that come with working with individuals, but like for whatever reason in college, that didn't even cross my mind, like that a couples therapist could work with individuals. So it's just couples. And then obviously I knew, and then, but I got to seminary, I said LPTS, Louisville Presbyterian Theological Seminary. I was day one, I was like, couples is my jam. Not that I was great, but it's like what excites me.
Excites you.
And obviously that grew to some individual work and things like that. But and that's still true. I mean, couples is still a passion. It's kind of what I think about in spare time. It's what gets me creative. So and so it's day one kind of. I was really lucky, I think, in that way.
What do you think it is about couples specifically? Like when you have a couple come into your room, because a lot of times we end up getting clients when they're having an issue, problem, or something's not going well, which, I mean, for most people, we don't want to handle conflict, but we're like steeped in conflict for the most part. What is it about the couple coming in and sort of that initial that excites you, or that you would want them to know, or that you like, how do you how do you encourage
Mhm.
for our listeners, you know, people who've never been to couples
Mhm.
before, like, what would you say to like ease their minds
Mhm.
about like it's not as bad as you think it is, or it's
Hmm.
not what you think, you know, like, because I say, like, you know, whether it's individual, couples, family, whatever the thing is like you wouldn't not get an oil change in your car
Mhm.
just because you don't see the oil, or you don't, you know that there needs to be maintenance on that
Mhm.
because there's like wear and tear on the car, or your tires, right? Like I
Mhm.
guess we see our tires more, but you know you have to change those out every once in a while. So I kind of think of therapy like that, of like
Mhm.
maybe there's just this like wear and tear on relationships.
Oh, there definitely are. And sometimes maybe we hit a nail and it causes a flat tire. Sometimes,
Yeah.
and no fault of anybody in the relationship, there's something external like an accident that
Right.
kind of damages the
Right.
tire. And I'll, using that analogy, something that might be going wrong with one part of the car can have influence kind of
Yes.
on a tire. That's
Yes.
can what make relationships so tricky or tough, because it's two individuals for the majority of the time. I mean,
Yep.
sometimes maybe there's more, but there's more than one individual within the relationship,
Right.
within the system. And so then you just have like doubled at minimum the amount of variables
Yes.
that are at play in
Yes.
relationships. But coming back to your question, I really think at first it's kind of recognizing that maybe what kind of, if we're having relationship stress,
Yes.
like that, how stress or how heavy that stress is, and how it could kind of grow, unfortunately, into other parts of our stress.
Yes.
Really, maybe wanting to protect
Yeah.
people from that or help repair.
Right.
And then so much in the relationships work with now can be premarital, marital at a certain stage of their life, and maybe that intensifies the possible, lack of a better word, like discomfort, pain,
Yes.
hardship that can
Yes.
come from when maybe our relationship is not going as well um, as we would like it to be. And then
Right.
maybe selfishly, what kind of really I enjoy with couples is the kind of puzzle or maze of it,
Mm-hmm.
is kind of simultaneously being really present and empathetic and just there with each individual,
Right.
but then also like those variables, like work like a math problem, working to solve this puzzle with them, collaborative. Like I'm not pushing them in a
Right.
direction.
You're guiding.
Yeah,
And
and sometimes they guide me. Like
sure.
really,
Sure.
that's what I really try to do.
Yeah.
But then finding them out of the maze, we're all in it together. So getting out together, and that
Cool.
kind of searching process is really like fun.
Yeah.
And then you think of it because there's like heavy shit that we deal
Totally
with
heavy
in
shit.
therapy,
Yeah.
and it's not always fun. Sometimes you leave work and you're like, oh my god.
Yes.
But when you get out of the maze,
Yes.
that is and fun is not a word that does it
No.
justice.
I was thinking it can be euphoric. It can also be just like like
Mhm.
just relieving,
Mhm.
you know, or hopeful,
Right.
you
And
know.
I'll throw in a spirituality component in
Okay.
there. And
Good.
I don't think I've told, like, this has been the summer of spirituality for me,
Yay!
but only because I'm recognizing it more in session. Now I
Yeah.
don't bring it up unless clients kind of bring it
Their
up.
value.
It's
Yeah.
it's whatever. And spirituality can just be anything, higher
Anything.
power, like
Right.
the sun and the moon, the sky, a being,
Nature.
right. And
Okay.
so
Yeah.
um, I've been seeing some like spiritual energy or feeling it in the sessions, and that
Nice.
adds like an interesting part, uh, because when people tend to come to therapy, or like couples, like sometimes couples come, like Lauren Townsend, who is our
Mhm.
director, too late, so a very vulnerable, been through a lot of pain,
Yeah.
and that vulnerability. There's like an element of this spiritual intimacy there, and that is, it can be like sacred, and I really, really like value that, respect it.
Yes.
Is probably a better word.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So that it can be kind of that spiritual intimacy between couples can be a little elusive for most of our listeners. So how would you,
Yeah, it's kind of out there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
give us an example of like,
Mhm.
what you mean by that. Like,
Yeah. So a lot of couples come to couples therapy and complain about, maybe we would like communication. That's what they say, they're presenting problems. And what tends to be very common within poor communication, if we're judging that, hopefully
Right.
not, but
Yeah.
it's defensiveness.
Right.
And so defensiveness, we can kind of have a not so great agenda when we're listening with our partner. We can have multiple agendas, but defensiveness can be or could be listening to respond and not to understand.
Yes.
But then, so if partners come into therapy and they haven't felt understood in a while, there can be this evolution of emotion, or maybe I'm feeling, not heard, which leads to sad, which leads to frustration. Frustration can evolve maybe into anger, doesn't get better, but then we might get into this ugly range, which evolves into resentment and contempt. And sometimes that's common. And so couples are seeing on this surface what they're having to sit in all day, every day, is maybe the feelings of contempt from their partner or resentment, or maybe vice versa, that they have for each other. But behind it is the hurt, where the evolution came from, not feeling seen and wanting to be seen. And so the hurt and the wanting of their partner to understand them, like, please, like a child asking their parent, like, are you proud of me? That is what I mean by this spiritual intimacy, that the person that you're coming to couples therapy with, for the most part, like, there's love there. And so behind all, like, the pain and that evolution is something very special. And through all, like, the crud, you can see through that and see, like, this is why we're here. There's something, if I'm asking you for help, like in a very intimate, like, I shouldn't say intimate, but like a very sincere, like something higher.
Right.
There is intimacy in that.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. So that is kind of what I mean.
Yeah, and the phrase that keeps coming to me is that meaning making. Like, it means something to me for me to be asking you for this help, or for you to do this differently. I want to be connected with you, and I do think there's that connection probably happens on a spiritual level, really, if we think about it, right? Like, it's something beyond physical, or whatever. It's like, we're thinking of one another. We've made meaning that this is a meaningful relationship to us, rather than just on a piece of paper it says it's supposed to be meaningful because we're married. Right?
And so, good point with the meaning. So whether it's spiritual, whether it's vibration, whether it's energy, whatever, whatever it might be, that's just, my word again of the last couple months. Okay. So, I know that is kind of far out there. I didn't plan.
No, that's good. But I also
weird
think,
here.
I think of that also in the intuitive piece too. For you to kind of be noticing it, maybe you're really exercising your intuition as a therapist in the session too, which is cool.
I think that's something you brought up in a lot of these videos, and I think I kind of hear that and kind of mirror it, because intuition plays a powerful part, and it has to, I think, in couples therapy, because you're going to hear, as an individual in couples therapy, you're going to hear things that you may not agree with, that are hurtful. And so sometimes in therapy, we can make a shut down, and you just have to really read the room, but really read individual, and want to use that intuition that says, okay, I wonder how this person heard that. And so you're really protecting, again, everything in the room, and that gets challenging with more than one individual.
And so, speaking of that, I was thinking about intuition, like, or not intuition, but sensitivity, like, bringing this full circle, because we got to wrap up. But you started with, your mom said you were a big feeler, and I also, would think that you have a high level of sensitivity. And one of our therapists, Britt, there's a new book out called Sensitive, which is the new HSP kind of better language, new language and stuff. And so I was thinking about how I feel like all of our therapists at the Mindfulness Center have a higher level of sensitivity, whether it's the use of the intuition or sensing that spiritual piece. But it's sort of like, being able to connect with what's unseen, but more maybe felt or sensed. You know what I mean?
Oh, very much so. And so, like, I hear things in ways that can make meaning to me. And so, sensitivity is a great word. I might conceptualize it as, another like dimension, something that you can
Yes.
see. Like
Yes.
I'm blind to a lot,
Yes.
but maybe one thing I'm just lucky to see is that sensitivity.
Yes.
If that makes
Absolutely.
sense.
It's like when you can read a room or you can read people or whatever, get a sense about them. And I guess in this book, which I'll plug the book, I haven't read it yet. I ordered it, but I haven't gotten it yet. It's almost on a continuum now. That's like everybody is sensitive. It's just more of like, a level of sensitivity versus, which I think is interesting. And I, have done a lot of development intuitive development and stuff. So I feel like while I have high sensitivity, I'm like, I'm channeling it. I'm like focusing it so that I can use it well in whatever situation I'm in, whether it's parenting or therapy or whatever. So I think it's kind of fun to play around with.
Yeah. Gosh, I'm glad you brought that up.
Well, we're going to wrap up this part 1, and we're going to rejoin Rob for part 2, and he's going to tell us about his own personal experience with therapy. And I think he's got some juicy details.
You think so? Oh, God.
No, I'm kidding.
A cliffhanger.
Yeah. So join us for part 2, and we'll see you in a minute.